time. It's our time, my friends. Time for millions of maturepreneurs, 55 plus, who are hashtag not done by a long shot, to revolutionize how we lead, do business, and innovate our world. I'm your host, Jeanette Anderson, and welcome to my conversations with fascinating people who would rather inspire than retire. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Maturepreneur podcast. I'm your hostess, Jeanette Anderson, and today I have with me all the way from the other side of the planet, Michelle Chung. Welcome, Michelle.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It is tomorrow there. I love talking to people from the future. We were just talking about, and it's just so odd, really, you know, when it's what day is it? Wednesday there, and it's Tuesday here. I just think that's so fascinating. Okay, so, and even after 65 years, I still think it's fascinating. So let me tell you about Michelle, the official introduction, and then we will, of course, find out all the unofficial, juicy details behind the scenes. But today we're going to be talking about a very fascinating topic: how to meet your ideal partner without dating. And I particularly invited Michelle because it's a fascinating topic, but also because I'm looking. So I want all the tips and hints that I can find. So gentlemen, if you're listening, I'm just saying I'm looking. It's an important topic because a lot of women and men are frustrated with dating apps and meeting people who are just not their level emotionally or mentally or financially or spiritually. So Michelle really does help with that. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So Michelle Chung is a personal mastery coach for high achieving women entrepreneurs and professionals, the podcast host of Love, Life, and Energy, best-selling author of How to Stop Dating and Be in a Committed, Effortless Relationship. Boy, let's talk about that. Trained in PSYCH-K, Kinesiology, and mind-body medicine, and has hacked the process to finding the right man and relationship that supports your vision, career, and lifestyle without dating or using online apps. All right, that sounds fascinating. So now, by the way, gentlemen, if you're just thinking this is all for women, you may want to listen, to pick up some tips, but also to find out what women are going to be doing when they're looking for you. So, okay, Michelle helps women meet the right man and skip the dating because your soulmate is not on an online database. He's waiting for you when you follow your soul path. Oh, that makes me sad. Okay. The unique insight I can bring to your audience is to help women let go and be empowered by your superpower, your feminine energy. You can still achieve and lead and all the amazing things you're already doing. But if you want to attract your soulmate, you can't date like a man. You need to be in alignment with your soul purpose, and your soulmate will be waiting for you. So you can just let go and receive. Oh, that sounds fabulous. Okay. So I can't wait to dive into that deeper. That's awesome. And so are you from Australia originally? Are you in Australia? You are, right?
I'm in Sydney, correct. I was born in Asia and then we immigrated when I was about 3. Okay. So I'm, kind of multilingual now because I also lived in Spain. But yes, I'm here in Sydney right now. So yes, I'm in the future.
Okay, awesome. Because you have a very strong Australian accent. So I figured you must have emigrated there early. Okay, so tell us something about you we wouldn't guess from reading your website or listening to your bio. What's something that might surprise even your friends, Michelle?
Oh, I think there's quite a few things. Maybe it wouldn't surprise my friends, but I trained martial arts when I started when I was 26. So I guess it's a bit late in life. Most people start when they're kids and they get to do all those fun extracurricular activities. Yeah. I train capoeira, which is a Brazilian martial arts. And that's, do you know it?
Yeah, I do. I stayed in Brazil for a while, and it's a beautiful form, but it's if you don't know much of the history, it was made to look like dance because they weren't allowed to practice a martial art.
You got it.
And so they put in it like a dance form, so it's very flowing and beautiful, but also extremely athletic. So, wow, girl, you must be fit.
Well, that was actually where I met my ex-husband. So we met when in our 20s, we were young and fit. And yeah, I gained so much out of that, like beautiful friendships, fitness as well. But it was also a catalyst for my major life pivot as well.
Okay. So that's very cool. So tell us what that major life pivot was now that we're teased by that. And then we're going to go back and talk more about your journey.
Yeah, so I guess the other thing that people don't know about me, if they haven't known me that long, is with that pivot, I was training martial arts capoeira, and I actually had a back injury from that. So, luckily I didn't have any accidents or injuries early on. I trained for maybe about 12 years in total, but during that time, yeah, I actually injured myself. I was doing acupuncture and it wasn't healing. And I was like, what's going on? And it got to the point where I couldn't walk.
Oh.
So this is something a lot of people don't know about me, that I had chronic sciatic pain. My ex-husband and I were on a cruise once during that period, and I was in a wheelchair. I literally couldn't move. So it was a huge wake-up call. And it kind of led me to study kinesiology and mind-body medicine to heal myself, because I thought surgery is not the answer. I knew very strongly, intuitively, that I didn't want a surgeon to cut open my skin and replace my vertebra with plastic parts. And I was only in my early 30s. I was trying to have kids as well with my ex. So that was a major life pivot for me.
Wow. And so how did you eventually heal that? Because now people are going to be very curious about that.
Yeah, definitely. So it was, I was literally lying on the floor most of the time. I had to quit my full-time job. My career was actually in design and product development and manufacturing. And it made me realize, why is this happening to me? I went through that whole victim thing of like, why me? I should be in the prime of my life. I should be having kids by now. And it was kind of led me to this path of like, and what I was studying in Chinese medicine, that when you're in pain and it's something chronic or an illness, that dis-ease is actually a sign of misalignment with your purpose in life. So I took that very literally. I actually ended up getting divorced because even my marriage was not in alignment with where I truly had to go towards. And we talk about purpose. And that's, what I realized, I had to really change my life or be literally stuck in my body.
Yeah.
And that really led me to this more mental, emotional awakening, personal development and growth. It took some time to heal, but with, I guess, the mindset in alignment and everything else in alignment, I eventually found the right practitioner who could help me, a chiropractor who studied Gonstead chiropractic, and he helped me in my journey, and we still have lunch today, so he's become a good friend. Yeah.
That's very cool. And so part of that is really, when we're talking about purpose, what for you was out of alignment? Was it just the marriage? Was it your career? What was the thing that you realized was not in alignment for you?
It's interesting because there was actually nothing wrong with my life. Like, my life was great. It was comfortable. It was amazing. I had a great job, great friends. My marriage was actually fine. We never fought. He was actually a really great guy. And, that's where people, said to me, you were really brave to leave your marriage and to start this new journey, because it was when we talk about the comfort zone, everything was great. And so I really, had to follow that awakening. And it was really literally just coming out of a kinesiology session thinking, I can't be in my marriage anymore. It was not that it was, like I said, wrong. It was more that it didn't fit my values anymore. And my values being personal development, growth, travel the world, experience an extraordinary life. And the life I had was good, but I always say, good is the enemy of great. And so that didn't fit with me anymore. That, energetically, it just didn't fit. And so when I realized that, I was like, okay, I've got to pivot. And it was just a deep knowing. And there was no other way I could really do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so what did you move into then in terms of your career or your business, or did you make the transition at that time, or did that come later?
Yeah, great question. So I had to quit my job and heal myself, focus on that journey. I did move back into design again, but more as a freelance basis. I said to myself, I'll never work full time again. It's not good for my health. And so I stayed in that, that industry because it's what I knew. And even though I was exploring different ideas of different where my life path, my purpose truly lay, it still wasn't available for me yet. So I did stay in my design career as a freelancer. In 2017, I actually traveled the world as a digital nomad. So I brought my business with me, even though my client was like, what are you doing? I said, oh, let's just put it all on the server and I'm going to go work remotely. And I lived in Latin America for 6 months, Europe for 6 months. And secretly, I was hoping to meet my soulmate. Being that, in Sydney, I was already dating and no one was, quite right. And I was like, oh, there's lots of, Sydney's very international. So I was like, oh, lots of, foreign men coming. And I was like, maybe it'll be interesting to meet someone who's not from Australia.
Yeah. And so is that where you ended up meeting someone, or was that on your travels or later?
Yeah, so I ended up being single for 5 years. When in 2017 I was traveling around and I was trying to meet my soulmate, I was dating like crazy. I was on all the apps. I was in every city that I moved to. I was like, okay, is he here? But then the guys that I'd meet, they'd be like, but you're only here for like a month and you're going to move again. So I didn't see any point, but I'm happy to meet you. And so I did have some short relationships and it was never quite right. And then I ended up finishing my gap year, my remote working year, came back to Sydney, and I still hadn't met anyone. I'd had small relationships, but not the one, not my soulmate. And then I heard someone talking about a digital nomad visa for Barcelona. And so I was like, should I move there? I want to relocate to a different country, but I just don't know where. And so my intuition said to me, go. And I ended up moving there in 2019, pre-COVID. And that's where I did meet my soulmate, but it wasn't until a couple of years later.
Ah, interesting. Okay. I didn't know that Barcelona had a digital nomad visa. I really want to spend more time in Spain. It's a bit challenging with time zones, right? As you know,
yes,
your compliance, time zones can be a challenge. But so going back to the topic of purpose, let's talk about your why. Why do you do the work you do, and what do you think your life purpose is?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's something I feel like I've been searching for or like trying to figure out like my whole life. Like when I was a kid, I was always kind of like, I feel like I'm meant for something more. You have that feeling, right? And you kind of just follow the advice they give you. You go to school, university, you get your job, and you kind of just try to figure things out along the way. And what I feel is my purpose, and I had a psychic reading earlier this year because I had a few unanswered questions, and she said that my life purpose is very much aligned with my soul purpose, and that's to help women, empower women. And I guess that originated from, my mum. Seeing her, she was a strong woman, but she also, is very much under, in a marriage. This is, baby boomer. She's from that era where men looked after all the money. They looked after you in the marriage. You didn't work because you raised kids. And so she was in this bubble, right? This time warp, the time stands still. And, if she was limited with her choices, and seeing that, and me being, born into this family, being the black sheep, being very much more Australian than my Asian family, this Western thinking of like women need to be independent, we need to be looking after ourselves, or at least have the financial capability to make decisions for ourselves, not rely on a man. So that's really what drove me.
That's interesting, and it is a very different cultural kind of framing and framework, right? So that I imagine that might have created some challenges and tensions between you and your parents at times. So helping women or working with women to support them in finding love is what you do, but why do you care about it so much? Is it because your mom didn't get the opportunity to be and do and have the life that she wanted? Why does that matter to you so much?
Yeah, I guess so. And I come across women constantly where they're like, I can't find love yet because I have to organize this other part of my life. And so a lot of my work is not just around finding love, because this is the trifecta that we want, isn't it? Love, health, wealth. So, and my view is very holistic. Like, we look at the whole thing, the big picture, whereas allopathic medicine, Western medicine, we look at the detail. We go, let's fix the symptom. Yeah. And we really need to come back and go, well, where is that actually coming from? We need to find the river at its start point, not where it's ending up in the waterfall, right? Yeah. So for me, what really has driven me is the feminine energy, the empowerment, and the patriarchy. Like, I think, we're all been through some version of what that patriarchy looks like and how it affects and impacts us. And I recognize the difference between feminist and feminism and versus feminine energy and the inner journey.
So we're definitely going to come back to that, because I think that's a fascinating topic. When did you, in terms of your business, when did you start? How did you make that transition into this business? And so forth, right? So tell us what you do, and then tell us when you made that transition and how it was for you.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm helping women to meet their soulmate, meet their ideal partner without the dating. So I do that through personal mastery coaching, because I found that even though you say you want love in life, a lot of women actually just want to focus on that internal journey, find that alignment within your soul, so that you can be out there in the world and just be your authentic self and attract from that authentic self. We're pretty wise, us women. We know that it's not about, fixing up that dating profile or trying to change and shrink who we are in order to get the right guy who will accept us. We're looking at it more from a personal growth view, where we're like, I just want to be the most authentic version of myself and be that in the world, and then have the right people, opportunities, intuition, messages come to me from that frequency instead. And to answer the next part of your question, it comes back to, moving to Barcelona. And, I was dating some Spanish guys there. They were lovely. That's the best tool for learning a language, by the way. Go on dates with locals. And, they didn't speak English very well. And, for one of my little relationships I had, I was literally on a date with my Google translator. And I was like, what? And me like typing on there. So in that way, I was kind of fearless, and I was like, I don't care if I look foolish, but anyway, I'm trying. And then it wasn't until COVID, and I was actually staying with another guy that I'd been seeing for about 8 months, and we were never serious, but and he knew that I was much more ambitious than he was and needed somebody. He was a bit more like my ex-husband, who, we didn't have those value alignment. And that's when I started, doing some life coaching with a coach. Actually, she was in Australia and I was in Barcelona, and realizing that I wanted to do coaching for my next career. And then she kind of helped me with my own journey, and that's why I feel like this is really the way to go. And that's where I met my partner just after COVID.
Okay, and so you open your coaching business, and what was the transition like, going from being an employee to a digital nomad to now having this new business that you're needing to launch that's kind of in a whole new field? What was the biggest challenge for you in that transition?
Definitely when you're freelancing in your business, you tend to have like a couple of major clients and it kind of does you right. And I was in a service business that was continual. Like we would work on fashion seasons and the work would keep coming. So you wouldn't have to be constantly looking for new clients. When I shifted into coaching, that was a whole new ball game, wasn't it? Like I became much, much better at marketing. And my previous work in design was a little bit around branding and marketing. I was doing packaging design. So I'd have to write those little, blurbs on this skincare routine with acai and elderberry will rejuvenate. And, so it was kind of, it kind of suited my skills already. So the marketing wasn't a huge shift, although I saw a lot of other coaches that I'd trained with really, really struggling with this marketing part. So it complemented the skills that I had, and I was able to hit the ground, well, not running, but I was learning a ton along the way, but I was able to implement all my skills.
Well, and it always boggles my mind that coaching programs don't include, or any skills programs don't include how to sell what you do, and marketing and sales and business, because giving someone a skill without the ability to do anything with that skill is really setting them up for failure. And so it kind of makes me crazy and cranky that they don't include that in there. And so many people go into, good-hearted people who want to support people who provide solutions that they were probably looking for typically in the past. And then they really struggle because they don't know how to be a business person. And people just think, oh, I'll just hang out a shingle and I'll be good. It'd be like saying, well, I just decide I'm going to be a brain surgeon and I'll go into the hospital tomorrow and start cutting. And it's like, no, it doesn't work.
No, right.
You need skills, you need ability, you need to know how to run a business. You need to know how to, not just promote yourself, but actually run a business. So yeah, makes me crazy. So you've had your business for about 5 years now, right? What's been the most fun part of it for you?
Definitely the one-on-one coaching. I love it when people get their breakthroughs. I've had women get married, meet their partners only a couple of months later. Definitely seeing those results come through for people where they really shift and they, really get to change their lives from the work I do. I also find the marketing kind of fun, and I think you have to really embrace it, like exactly what you said, like you're helping people into that entrepreneurship at that later age without learning those skills and loving it. Oh my gosh, it's going to be really difficult. It's probably better that you would stick to a job, because that piece will make you go crazy if you don't like embrace it.
Absolutely. And so the part that you love is doing the work, and the other parts of getting the job and the work and the clients and stuff, a little less. But it facilitates those wonderful moments where we get to see the transformation and see the ahas and see the results. And that's ever so gratifying. Okay, so let's go back to talking about, we're going to get to how to find a relationship without dating very shortly, but I'm intrigued by your comment about the difference between feminism or feminists and feminine energy. So can you talk a little bit more about that? What do you mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's basically what I've discovered just from like observing. And I very much, did this myself, like where you come at feminism with this almost righteousness, this very masculine energy of pushing your viewpoint and perspective because just because we've been undermined for such a long time. And for me, it's not, it comes from, it feels like a bit more of an aggressive nature, aggressive energy where, to have equal rights, to have balance and gender equality, you really need to fight for it. Now that for me feels like the overarching theme with it. When I talk about feminine energy, and it's become more an increasingly popular topic, is to be more about the inner journey. So when I studied kinesiology, mind body medicine, we learnt about Chinese medicine, TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, also Ayurveda. The concept of our human bodies is that we have a masculine and feminine energy. We have this in the universal law. We have the polarities of masculine and feminine, the law of gender. So it was understanding that there is a masculine energy, and that's like the external. Men have their reproductive organs on the outside, women have us on the inside. So that's a good way to remember that rule. And understanding that the feminine also included that internal journey, the inner world, the inner work. So that's where I see more of this feminine energy coming into our world, because it's not about campaigning harder to be a woman. It was more about, let's stop putting so much stuff out there that's not, that's just noise, let's say, and start focusing more on the internal, which is the inner wisdom that we all have, but we're not utilizing it. We're just too much in our heads. We're too much about speaking out about injustices, and not saying that this is bad, but it's become too much noise. Whereas when we take the silence, where we take that viewpoint that the meditation can help us focus and really align internally, and also to connect with our own higher power. So I talk a lot about that higher power with my coaching work, because that is really the next level for us. It's not about getting things right. It's about stepping into that higher vibration, that higher frequency that we embody. Especially as women, we have great access to that feminine energy, but we're not utilizing it. We've been taught that, and we practice this to be successful in our careers. We use a lot of our masculine energy. It's necessary and it's fine. But when we go to using that same masculine energy in relationships, hey, straight men don't want to be with another masculine energy, right? So it's that that conflict of those energies. So, and it's not talking about being more girly or weaker or, less than. And that's the idea I had before. And that's why I was very feminist. It was, this idea that we're somehow deficit in, worthiness or value. Being a woman, we're less than. It's more about understanding that the value we hold really is within our feminine energy. It's within ourselves, but we need to discover that. That's where that authenticity, that inner journey is so important.
So part of what some people may be thinking or hearing is that driven or pushing is not functional or workable, and so they may swing to the other side and say, are you saying we need to be just a sec. Are you saying we need to be passive or subservient? Is that the opposite of that driven push? So what would you say to that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Subservient or passive comes from a different energy frequency, and it doesn't come from an empowered state. So we want to be in our feminine from that empowered state. I used to think that, being a woman was to be passive and subservient. That's what I saw growing up. And those are the beliefs that stuck with me. And I rebelled like crazy. I really did not like that in my world that I could see, my reality. And so to be in your empowered feminine is to be more from an assertive point of view, not aggressive. It's to be from love, joy, compassion. It's to embody those energy frequencies and taking action from those frequencies. And so if you look in contrast, that passive, the passive that we talk about is more like, not apathetic, but it's more like allowing yourself to be pushed around like a boat in the water. And there's a great book by Napoleon Hill, and it was only published after his death. It's Outwitting the Devil. And it's very much about, the devil is the enemy, which actually means not having that purpose. So we come back to having that purpose, being drawn to, being pulled towards something much greater than yourself, like a mission. And not having that mission or purpose, it has you be with the devil, because you're floating, you're passive, you're, just going with the flow. And that's very different from, yes, accepting and going with the flow and not fighting against that. But there's a difference between focusing on your passion and your purpose and moving towards that. Hopefully that makes sense.
On that note, what's the difference between, because you mentioned, or you talk about the difference between life purpose and soul purpose. So can you define those two?
Yeah, definitely. So this is what I talk about in my free masterclass. It's really being able to align with your soul purpose if you want to attract your soulmate. Most of the time we're taught this, that we find our partner based on, has he got a good job? Is he attractive? Do we have sexual chemistry? Do we have the same interests? And, you normally find your partner in your younger days with this concept in mind. What I'm saying is to follow your soul path. So now the difference between your soul path, your soul purpose, and your life purpose, and this was explained to me by the psychic that I had a session with, and mine are actually aligned. So my life purpose, and you can have multiple of your life purpose. My life purpose before was to fix things. As a designer, I found solutions through products. And eventually that didn't align with me anymore, because my values of sustainability, environmentalism, I didn't want to create landfill. So that purpose kind of dissolved, and I found a new purpose with my coaching work, and that's to empower people. Now, my soul purpose, that's described as an enduring theme among your past lives. They could be, careers in your past life that you've had. They're, I guess, what brings everything together as a spiritual being. So for me, it's the same. Apparently, I was a man in many past lives, and I totally resonate with that, because even my mum is like, you're too masculine and you're too much like a man. And I'm like, yeah, I don't feel so good when I'm wearing really girly dresses, or, I embrace my pink hair because that really feels like me. But for a long time, I was a tomboy. I didn't like being a girl because I felt like it was weak. And so that made sense to me that, that masculine from my past lives, but that actually helped me now, because my purpose is really take my learning from my past lives to help empower women in this lifetime now. So my purpose and my soul purpose and my life purpose are both to empower women.
So how do we find our soul purpose?
That's a great question. Yeah, so it's the soul purpose will normally be more an emotion or feeling. So it could be compassion. Perhaps you have a child who's disabled, so you have to learn great compassion from this situation. And maybe in your past lives you've been a nurse, or you've been someone who helps people. They could be something like finding love within yourself, or something like that. So it's different for everyone. So finding that for yourself will take some introspection, that inner journey, really using your intuition to understand what really resonates and aligns with you. So that alignment is super, super important.
And so how did you find or listen to yours? What's your practice that helps you to do that introspection and that inner work?
I feel like I try to not make it like work. So, the idea of like sitting there, forcing myself to meditate, it doesn't work with me. And as we know, meditating, it's, people say, oh, it's to clear your mind. But when you try to clear your mind, there's 1,000 thoughts that are coming in. So for me, I like to do things that fill me with joy, like gardening, being in nature, cooking, even going for a walk. When you have your mind empty and it's not full of negative self-talk, And those noisy conversations in your head that's like, I should have done that, or why didn't I do that, or beating yourself up, being really hard on yourself, especially if you're a high achiever. You tend to do these kind of things. You tend to ruminate a lot. So I think what I believe is, finding a way to deal with that rumination in a way that you can actually clear your mind, allow the intuitive downloads to happen, and that's where you get your guidance. I don't tell my clients what to do. I'm only there to facilitate, hold a space, create a capacity for them to have the self-belief and be able to create their own downloads and make that direction for their life.
So how do we call in or meet the right man without dating? Like because, I don't know about most people listening, but I would think that to me makes me think, well, I just sit in my house and he shows up. But that's likely not going to be the case, right? So yes. You mean about that? How do we find an ideal partner without dating?
Yeah, absolutely. The dating part I kind of categorize as searching, as actively seeking for a partner. Even though you might tell yourself, well, I'll just go out to a restaurant or a bar and just sneakily look around to see if there's any eligible men out there. What I classify as dating is that energy of trying to seek. And that energy also gives to the universe this idea you don't have it. So that in itself of that dating, yes, it works for some people. But I think as we shift from we're having a massive shift in our consciousness right now. A lot of things are happening. It's 2025. It's already been happening since last year. I'm not sure if you've also, noticed this as well. So what I've done and what my clients have done, a major thing is to shift your environment as well. As I say with Albert Einstein says, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting the same results. So if you're in your hometown and you've been on the dating scene, you've been looking around, no one's around. That's what I did in Sydney, right? So I went out searching for my soulmate with my Nomad program. I didn't find him. But once I shifted into intuitive action, that was, hey, move to Barcelona. I don't know what's going to happen. I didn't even speak Spanish. I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any connections. It was literally starting from zero. And when I went there, I just kept following my intuition. Do this, I enrolled at the Academy of Art. Another thing people don't know about me, I'm actually a fine art portrait painter. I paint in oils. And I've been able to do that since I was since I was 5, I could draw. So, I was like, how do I use these skills? And I'm not quite sure. But when I went to Barcelona, I'm like, cool, I'm going to explore that. So I kept exploring my natural talents, my zones of genius. And another zone of genius was creating things that brought people together. I created a community of like-minded people without alcohol, without nighttime meetings. And it brought together really smart entrepreneurs who wanted to have a deep connection. And that's actually where my partner came. So that's the part I say without dating, because you'll be out there in the world, being authentic, doing the things that you're drawn to do. So there is an amount of doing, which is the masculine energy, but it's coming from a feminine energy. It's coming from that internal, the intuition, not just from action from, I've got to do something, or it's from a very different space.
I hear it as coming from abundance, not scarcity. I don't have to go out and try and find him. I am more than enough, and coming from that sense of abundance of being full, and then whatever comes in augments that, isn't trying to fill a hole or a gap.
100%.
And so you said a couple of things that were kind of interesting too, around you followed and really pursued your talents and your zone of genius. And I think that really supports and shifted your environment. Now, those of you who are listening, you may not have to move across the country, but yes. But we do need to shift our environment, because you're right. Like if you keep doing the same things over and over, you're going keep getting the same results. So shake up our environment, shake up perhaps how we do what we do, and can be little things like drive a different way to work or wear different clothes or try different things, but also really following your talent and your zone of genius puts you in that state of like liking yourself and enjoying life and enjoying who you are. And that's also very attractive, right? That attracts
Exactly.
people to us. And then the other thing you said that was really smart was you created community that had similar values to what you were looking for and what you hold around deep connection without, a lot of other noise and so forth. So how did you do that? Did you hold like meetup groups, or how did you do that?
Yeah. So in my online program, I have 4 different ways that women have found success meeting their partners without dating. The one that I employed that I didn't know was going to be a thing, but since then some other women have tried that as well. I actually had a meetup group. It was a book club. It was a very different kind of book club where you could just come and just be there and share. You didn't have to read the same book. It was very much about just sharing what inspired you, what you got out of it. And it became so popular that I'd have a waiting list of people wanting to come each week. And it was COVID times. It's like, no, we can't have more than, 30 people. So you're on the waiting list. And people were really keen to come. People wanted that connection. And this is the thing, going forward in our AI-driven world, this connection, this human touch is going to be something irreplaceable. So if you can position yourself, your business in that space where you're bringing people together, firstly, you might meet your soulmate. Your soulmate will be attracted to your message and your personal brand. You're going to be, I can't remember how many people came up to me and said, I met my girlfriend at your event. I met my boyfriend at your events. We're still together. I met all these amazing friends. So not only are you doing something amazing for the world and your society, you're also raising your own frequency. If you're doing what you love, you're really in the right space of alignment.
And especially if you're sharing your talents too, like even if you hold a, calligraphy meetup or something, but you're probably going to want something that has both sexes interested in it. And so one of the things that a lot of, like I've had a client who wrote a book about meeting, is he Mr. Right or Mr. Right now? And her story was that she created a list of 200 things that she wanted in a man and in a relationship and got very clear on that and kind of set that intention and then put it out into the universe and then just basically, like you said, surrendered and trusted and really was an exercise in trust and attracted that in. What do you think about where do we need to be clear? What do we need to be clear on in terms of what we want to attract? Because you've mentioned, values and so forth. How clear do we need to be, and what do we need to be clear on?
Yeah, great question. If you're going to do anything at all, and let's simplify this, make your checklist on values. I got very clear about what values I wanted, like my top core values, which is spirituality, personal growth, friendship, integrity. And that's what I attracted through my group, which embodied those values. It was literally the name of the book club was Spirituality and Personal Growth Book Club. And that's going to appeal to a certain, kind of person. And that's what it did. And what I think we don't do enough in our worlds when we're meeting people is to state those values really clearly. And I was holding group events for men and women in Barcelona, and I did a values training. And one guy was like, isn't that weird if you go up to somebody and state your values straight away? Well, obviously you don't make it awkward, but you want to be clear on that. Somebody who's there just to make friends and spend time, what I say, kill time or have a warm body for winter, straight away that's not that right match. I know it sounds very simplistic, but if you hear somebody start talking about quantum physics or like this gardening, or let's not say gardening, it's too interest hobby based, but somebody who's really interested in that the values that you share, and this is the lesson I got with my ex-husband, when you're clear on that, you really have a much better framework to attract people. And then you're going to have obviously tangents of different people coming, but the core values will be the same.
But how, because, you know, like I can imagine, for instance, integrity is an important one for me as well. But I don't imagine anybody's going to walk up and say, yeah, no, integrity is not important to me and I don't have any. You know, everyone thinks they have integrity. Everyone thinks they're honest. Everyone thinks they're funny. Everyone thinks they're a great lover, right? Most of us are wrong about all of the above. So when we say our values, what does that really mean? Like, for instance, I used to think when I had a list, I had a strong man on my list, and I really took time to think about what that meant, and that evolved over time in terms of my definition of what that meant, and what is strength, because it's not necessarily just being physically strong. It's not even necessarily being psychologically strong. It was as much about I could lean on him and be vulnerable with him, and that's strength, and had the strength. He had the strength to be vulnerable with me, so the strength to be fully expressed and real and soft, right? The strength to be soft, and that so it evolved. When I first just slapped it on there, that was not. I didn't have a clue what I meant by it, and so values. I don't know that we all really know what we mean by our values. You know, when you say freedom is important to me, what does that actually mean? What does it translate into? So how can people get deeper in that, deeper clarity around that, so that they can communicate it better?
Great one. I actually have a training inside my programs that do address exactly that, because a lot of the time it's like, oh yeah, I know my values, you know, but have you actually really sat down and did what you did, like really understand what that value meant for you? And, you know, in doing that inner work and in taking the time to really plan or feel that out is going to be really important. That's the inner work. So a lot of people will just skip over that and go, yeah, I know what that is. And then guess what they get?
Yeah.
Those kind of scant, vague results. When I did it, I was very clear. I worked with my life coach, and, you know, I even did manifestation programs. I did the Silver Method. You do the visualizations. He came to me within like 3 months. Okay. So this is how powerful things can be. And I was there at the right place at the right time. So there was a lot of pre-work, which is like, yes, I had to move my life to Barcelona, but that was intuition coming, you know, that year or two before we'd actually met. So it's all kind of just leading up to where it's meant to be. And so don't be surprised if it does come quickly, but then you've probably done some, you know, work before that to align both your energies to come together.
So if there was a kind of some of the steps in the process that I hear is really get comfortable with trusting and following your intuition, listening to that inner guidance from your intuition and from spirit, or however you frame that, really actively following it. So not just tuning in, but actually doing the thing. So it is also about being active and doing it. Looking for what's important to you and identifying what it really means and understanding what that really means and feels like. Pursuing what gives you joy and lights you up, stepping into your talents, your zone of genius, so that you are happy and your cup is full. You're coming from that sense of abundance rather than I got to have a man to complete me and so forth, and other myths that were so 18, 1700, whatever it might be, way long. And being active in the process of making yourself available. So creating community, being involved in your interests, not sitting at home waiting for someone to knock on the door, but actively going out and being in life in that trusting way to that this person will come, and the right person will come when it's appropriate, and they will be attracted to your energy because your energy is in alignment, just as you'll be attracted to theirs because theirs is in alignment. So following those steps and really doing that work, because it is work to do those things, to put yourself out there, to trust. The trust, I think, is probably one of the biggest things. And so just a couple last questions to wrap up here. Many of the listeners on here are older, and have been down the road of love maybe numerous times in numerous ways. They might be widowed, they might be divorced, maybe, once, twice, three times. My mom was married 5 times. I've not been married. I kind of went the other way. And so their experience is what it has been, not necessarily what it could be. But as we get older in life, we sometimes get that fixed mindset of, well, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, or I am who I am, or there's no good men out there, or other limiting beliefs that tend to, come in. What are some pieces of advice that you would give to people about attracting love later in life? And I'm specifically asking this for me, but I've seen 2 examples of it that's been really lovely in my life. My 2 best friends, both in their 60s, found the love of their life, and they hadn't had any relationship. The other had been in a loveless marriage for most of her life, and well, not loveless, but they were friends, but that was it. And so
companionship.
They both found their perfect person. By the way, both are named Brian, which I think is amusing. So it gives me great hope that it's not too late, but there are many people who think it's too late. So what would you say to them, to us?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But this goes for everyone, and you summarized the steps beautifully. There's just one step that I tend to start with as well, is that release process. So if you've definitely been through a few relationships before, even if you haven't, we build up a lot of stuff that prevents us from seeing, from attracting, from our vibration and frequency being at that level of shiny and authentic aligned. So part of what the work I do is to help shift that. That's where I studied PSYCH-K. So that was a process that literally rearranges your neurons in a way that opens up your subconscious program. So that is a lot of the unconscious beliefs, limiting beliefs, all that programming that we had since childhood, throughout our life, where we've had situations, experiences that made us go, oh, well, that doesn't work. That's become a story. And that gets embedded in your body. So that process of PSYCH-K I use helps to open up our computer. Our brains are like a computer. Go control A, select all, control delete, right? So we want to do that first so we can open up that space. Because what I mentioned before, we don't want to be, attracting our partner from a space of past or negative experiences or things that don't serve us. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the time, right? And a lot of the time, not having the experiences we want, we sometimes block ourselves because we have that fear of success. Yeah. We have that fear of like, okay, so I'm in a relationship, crap, now what? And sometimes that can really block us, even though we say consciously we want that relationship. Yes. Sometimes we may have those programs deep down that say, I'm not going to be safe. Yeah. If I'm seen, then what happens? If I'm in a relationship, then I lose my freedom. I have to rearrange and compromise my amazing life for this new person. What the hey, right? So there's a lot of those things that we get to shift, and that's that part of that inner work, that release work, so that we can be a clean slate to attract from that frequency of I'm up here, not from, bogged down with all the skeletons.
Yes, I hear you. And yeah, we often have lots of limiting beliefs. I know I grew up with lots of things around men, relationships, etc. I mean, Mom was married 4 times before I was 8, so I have some stuff about that. Yeah. So definitely. I have done a lot of personal growth work and a lot of counseling and so forth around that to clear some of that out of there, certainly bring it to the awareness level of conscious awareness. And there's still some work to do, right? Like it's kind of an ongoing layers of the onion thing. Speaking of, you mentioned your masterclass before, and so tell us a little bit about that. You've got that as a gift for everyone.
Right. Yeah. So my masterclass, it's amazing. It's only a short one because I know we're busy women who run businesses and professionals. So I've made that intentionally short but powerful. So that will run you through the way you can attract your soulmate without that dating process and help you shift into that vibration of being able to attract from that space of higher self.
Awesome. And so you can go to michellechungcoach.com/masterclass. Or what we do here on this podcast is you can go to the vault, which you'll find the link in the show notes and in the show description. And in the vault, we'll have Michelle's masterclass as well as all of the gifts from all of our other speakers. So if you go there and you see other things that look interesting to you, you can download them all at the same time. You do need to opt into each particular person's gift, but you can go and get multiple gifts so that's fun, and it's like a great little free gift giveaway that you can go and take advantage of. So go to the vault, opt in, go grab lots of gifts and goodies, or you can go directly to Michelle's site and get it there as well. michellechungcoach.com/masterclass. What's the best way to get in touch with you? Is that your website? Is it LinkedIn? What's your best way of finding you?
Yeah, definitely. I'm on LinkedIn for all my professional women out there. Also on Instagram, so you can check my content, my podcast, and also a YouTube channel. So many ways to get in touch with me.
Okay, and tell them the name of your podcast.
It's called Love, Life, and Energy, and it's for us ambitious women who want to learn more about personal growth, health, prosperity.
Awesome. All right. So just want to let you know, ladies and gentlemen, that we have some programs coming up. Well, actually, by the time you hear this, they'll be out, called the Clarity Compass that really supports you in figuring out what is your vision for your life. Now what? Now that I'm here at this stage, what do I want? Who do I want to be? What do I want to do? What do I want to have in my life? And clarifying that vision. Also, your purpose. I have a slightly different definition of purpose than Michelle's version that she told us earlier, but it's similar to soul purpose, and kind of between the two. And then how do we live into that purpose in terms of what we do? And what is your next 20, 30 years going to be about? Because the reality is, the old notion of retire at 65, die at 70 is not the case anymore. We are living 20, 30, 40 years beyond quote unquote retirement. So if you are a #not done by a long shot, come and check out the Clarity Compass to figure out what's next for you, how you're going to monetize that, how you're going to continue to collaborate and contribute in the world and continue to earn should you need that, which, by the way, 65% of the population can't afford to retire. So if you're one of us, or if you just choose not to, and you're asking that question, what's next, please come and check out the Clarity Compass. You can go to Maturepreneur.world for more information on that. Maturepreneur.world. All right. So thank you for being here, Michelle. I want to give you the last word. When women are ready for love, what's the most important thing that you want to kind of remind them or encourage them around that?
Your soulmate is also waiting for you. He's on his journey. And so don't you worry that you're going to miss out on love, or love is not for you, or, this is not your thing. It's there for you. It's available. Universe sets aside some goodies just for you, so you're not going to miss out. There's going to be that trust. And also know that karma and divine timing have a play in this. So even if you're taking all the beautiful actions that you are, just know that the universe has goodies in store for you.
Yay. I'm happy to hear that. All right. Thank you so much for being here. And ladies and gentlemen, if you've hung in here, please do think about what it is that you want to attract in, but more think from your heart, not necessarily your head, and go into that deeper knowing and that deeper longing and that deeper understanding to really be able to say, here's what I want to attract. And I'm, assuming that this is not just about relationships, it's also about health and wealth and all of the things that we are going to manifest in our lives. So get support, get someone, because we often can't see what's on the end of our nose. So it really helps to have a coach. So check out Michelle, connect with her if that's the path that you are on, so that you can bring that love, juicy love into your life. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, and have a blessed rest of your week. Bye, everybody. Thank you for listening. I'd love it if you left a comment and subscribed. And I encourage you to apply one aha from this interview right away, so you can turn your wisdom into wealth and your contribution into positive change. Bye for now.